Hi, and welcome to this PowerShell tutorial video for the beginner project series. In the first video, we took a look at the environment checker, and today we're going to be taking a look at number 2, which was the service checker. So what this is we're going to have a list either from a file or an array. In this video, I'm going to be using a CSV file of the scripts of the services to have running or stopped. And then we're going to be checking the computer to see those services status and then set them to the proper status, either running or stopped. And if any actions are taken, we're going to be logging that to a file, and then we're going to be sending that email containing the log file. So let's go ahead and let's get started here. So I have Visual Studio Code open, and I already have my service checker.ps1 script open and my services.csv open and created here. So what we're first going to do is create two columns in the services.csv. We're going to create name and status. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use the get service commandlet down here to get the services that I want to monitor, just to make sure that I spell them properly. So one that I definitely want to make sure that is always running is the Windows Defender service. So I'm going to put win defend. I'm going to set that to running. And then we are going to set also the volume shadow copy to always be running. So VSS, I'm going to set that to running. And then the last one here that I always want to be actually set to off is going to be the print spooler, because this server is not a print server, so we actually don't want that running. So we always want it to be stopped. All right, so we have that file ready. So what we're going to be doing is now in our script here, we are going to first point to that file. So we are going to create a variable called services file path, and we are going to set that equal to our file here. So in users, it's on my desktop and it's the beginner projects, and then services dot c oops, not that one. It is going to be services dot csv, and then I'm going to create another variable called services list, and we're going to set that equal to the import csv, and then the path we're going to put in services file path, and then delimiter we are going to set that to a comma, just for the best practice of specifying a delimiter. So if anyone comes in and checks, they can see that it is separated by delimiter. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a for each service in services list, and we're just going to open and close these curly brackets, and all we're going to do is we're just going to run this here so we can actually pre-populate the dot notation. So what we want to do when we have a for each here is we want to make sure that the service status currently on the computer is matching the one that is in this file here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go fetch the current service status. So I'm going to create a variable here called current service status, and I'm going to set that equal to in parentheses get service, and then we're going to specify the name, and we're going to do service dot name, and we're going to do a dot status after the parentheses. So this is only going to grab me the status. That is really the only thing that I really need for now. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a if service dot status, so the status that it should be, is not equal to the current service status, open and close curly brackets. What we're going to do is we're just going to create a log variable here, and we're going to say that the service, and then we're going to do a variable wrapper. We're going to do service dot name is currently, and we're going to do current service status should be, and we're going to do a variable wrapper service dot status, and then all we're going to do is we're going to do a write output log here. Perfect. All right, so this should actually not output anything currently, but what we're going to go ahead and do is we're actually going to start the print spooler, and we are going to go ahead and stop the volume shadow copy. So now if we run this, we are going to see at the bottom here, we're going to see that the service VSS is currently stopped, should be running, and that the service spooler is currently running, should be stopped. All right, so now all we need to do is really perform these actions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up our log variable to setting, and then we're going to do a variable wrapper service.name to, and we're going to do another variable wrapper service.status. So we are trying to set the service to that proper status, and then what we're going to do to perform that action. So first, let me just write output here, that log. And then to perform that action, what we're going to be doing is actually do a set service. So you can also use start and stop service, but for that you would need an extra if statement and validate on that status, whether it says running, whether it says stopped, and then perform the correct action. This one actually lets us do the set service, and we're going to set the name to service.name, and then we can set directly the status to a string, which for us is going to be service.status. And then what we want to be sure is after we perform this action, we want to make sure that the action has worked. If it didn't work, then we want to make sure that we actually log that as well, because that might be something that we might have to check, like why did the script was not able to start that service? Was there something blocking it? Is there another problem on the computer? So that's something that we need to investigate manually. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a after service status here, and we're going to set that to, again, parentheses, and we're going to do a get service, and we're going to set that name to service.name, and we're going to do a dot status, and then we're going to have another if statement in here, and we're going to do if service dot status is equal to the after service status. So if it is equal, we actually know that the action has worked. So what we're going to do here, I'm just going to copy this log and write output here. So we're going to say that the action was successful, service, and then we're going to do our variable wrapper service.name is now, and then all we're going to do is we're just going to use the after service status. Perfect. And then we're going to have our else here. So if it didn't work, what we want to have is we want to have action failed, and we are going to say the service is still after service status should be, and then we're going to do our variable wrapper. We're going to do service dot status. We're going to be writing that output. Perfect. So everything there should be working. So now if we run this, we will see that the service VSS is currently stopped, should be running, setting VSS to running. Action was successful, VSS is now running. Service spooler is currently running, should be stopped, setting the spooler to stopped. Action was successful. So that is perfect. So our script currently is actually working. This would be okay in a production environment. The only thing is you're not logging anything. So if for some reason the script isn't able to start it back up, you're really not going to know. So really you're getting the same problem as if you didn't even have this script. So I always recommend to log this something like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a log path variable at the top here. Now this is going to be where we're storing our log files. So we're going to be storing our log files in this log folder here. So we're just going to do C users, administrator, desktop, PS beginner projects, and we're just going to point that to logs here. And then what we're going to have is we're also going to have a log file. Now our log file is going to be called services. We're going to have dash. And what we're going to do is our variable wrapper here, and we're going to do a get date, and we're going to format the date here. We're going to put some double quotes. So what we're going to do is 4 lowercase y's followed by a dash, 2 uppercase m's for month, dash, and then 2 lowercase d's for the day. Then we're going to do a space, and we're going to do lowercase h's for hours and lowercase m for minutes. So it's always going to be logged as the day that it's ran and the time that it ran at. And what we're going to do is we're going to store this as a .txt file. Now what we're going to be doing is we're only going to be also logging when there is problems. So if every status is running and it should be running or is stopped and should be stopped, I don't really care about that too much. Now you could decide to log that if you really want to, and especially if you have a database taking care of this, it could definitely be a lot better, but that's a little bit more of an intermediate or advanced topic, I would say. So all we're going to be doing is when things have failed and we're outputting things to the screen right now, we are also going to be logging it to a file. So here we're going to do a out file, and then we're going to do a file path, and our file path is going to be in double quotes, and we're going to do log path / log file, and our other parameter is going to be append because we always just want to append to the file. And then what we're going to do is our input object is going to be our log variable. And then all we need to do is copy paste this out file line after every write output to make sure that we're also logging it to the file. So that should be good. So let's go ahead and let's run this again. So if we run this now, nothing's going to happen because our services are good. So if we go ahead and we stop the volume shadow copy, and we also go ahead and we start the print spooler, let's go ahead and let's run the script here. We see that our output to the screen, and we also see our log file is created, and our log file has the time that it ran at 1:20 on March 26th. So that is perfect. And then if we run it again here, we're not going to get a new file or anything. As we can see, we only have one file here. So that's perfect. And another test here that we could just see to make sure, we're going to just name it slightly different. And again, there is no file that's been created. So that is perfect. So what we're going to want to do as well is, because we have this should be here, now there's 2 ways that we could do this. I'm going to be doing it whenever there has been an issue with the service. I'm going to send an email, but if you only want to send an email when the service hasn't been able to be restarted, you could easily do that very similarly to our environment checker and create a variable here called alert and set that to false by default, and then setting it true once you hit this, and only send that log file once that alert is set to true. But we're just going to be doing it whenever we have a log file. So what we're going to do for that is we are actually going to be inserting the exact same values and variables that we did for our environment checker. So I'm just going to be copy pasting those. So I'm going to be using the mail module. Now, if you haven't used the mail module, I'm going to be putting a link in the description down below to the YouTube video and the GitHub for that mail module. The YouTube video kind of shows you how to create it yourself, but also how to use it. And then the GitHub, you could just download the mail module. And then I also have this mail account variable, which is using the import CLI XML. So I will also have the video in the description down below for that commandlet. We've also link to those in the environment checker, but I'm going to be linking to those again just in case you guys haven't watched that video. You guys can still see how to use that in those videos. It's very good to use that import cli XML. It just prevents you from having to store passwords in clear text in your script. And for me, it allows me to show you guys how I send emails without giving you guys my password. So then we have the mail port, which is going to be the port 587 for Outlook. We also have the SMTP server, the username that we're sending from, and the email address that we are sending to. So then all we want to really do is at the end of our script, we want to check if the log file exists. And if the log file exists, we want to send an email. So what we're going to do at the end here is we're going to do if, we're going to do a test path, and we're going to provide the path of log path / log file. If that exists, then we're going to go ahead and we are just going to import this module here real quick so I get the commandlet loaded in. We're going to do a send mail kit message, and our mail kit message is going to be from. We're going to do mail from. Our to is going to be mail to. Our SMTP server is going to be the mail SMTP server. The port is going to be the mail port. And then credential is going to be the mail account. Now for the subject here, I'm going to go ahead and just put some double quotes. And actually what I could do is set this here. So let me just do subject. And we're going to set that to a variable wrapper. And we're going to do n : computer name. So we have the computer name is having issues with services. And then body is, we're just going to set this to, here is the log file. And then the attachment is going to be log path / log file. Perfect. All right, so then in the subject, we're just going to put in subject. Body, we're just going to put in body here, and then we are going to put the attachment as well. So that should be perfect here. So if we run this now, we shouldn't get any errors, but it also won't do anything because all of our services are running. So let's go ahead and let's start the print spooler. And let's run this here. All right, so it did send off the email. So if we look in my Outlook here, here is the email. It's telling me that the Hype-V 2016 is having issues with services. If we open it up, we can see that service spooler is currently running because we know that we set it to running, and it should be stopped, setting spooler to stopped. And if we go and look at it, if we just refresh this, we see that the spooler is now stopped and it's offering us to start. So like I said, if you guys only want the emails when you're having issues, I would just simply change this to if alert, and then have the alert set to true here. And that's kind of what we did in the environment checker, is if the alert, then we send the email. So that is easily what you could do. Now, some easy ways to actually make this script a lot better, but it would kind of take away from being a beginner project, of course, is to integrate this with a database. So instead of having a services.csv, storing everything in a database, and then also storing your log files in a database. That would greatly improve. You're just not having files everywhere, so someone can't accidentally delete a file. So it's just a lot better. And then the other thing is to use PowerShell remoting. So right now you would have to put this script on every server. And let's actually go ahead and do that for this one, just to show you guys what would be involved. So now that we have this script completely made, everything is working. Now to automate this, what we would want to do is we would want to come into the task scheduler like we did for the environment checker, create a new task, and then do service checker, and then we want to run it whether the user is logged in or not. Create a trigger for daily, and we're going to run this every 15 minutes. You can pick any time delay that you would want. I would say for services, I would say probably 15 minutes is probably good enough. And then let's go ahead and let's pick an action, and we're going to browse to our script here. So service checker, and then to run that in PowerShell 7, we're going to do pwsh space dash file space. And we're just going to click OK and yes, and that's going to prompt us for our password here. So there it is. So it is automated now and it will run. So if we actually just go ahead and if I just show you guys this here. So let's do the print spooler. Let's start that. And just to make it slightly different than the last time, we are also going to be stopping our volume shadow copy. And then if we just run this as if it was running from that environment here, and there is our email, and we can see that the VSS was stopped, so it's now running, and then the spooler was running, and it is now stopped. So that could get quite lengthy if you have to do that on multiple servers. Like let's say you have a environment with 10 plus servers, and even there's some environments with 100 or 1,000 servers. This would get quite lengthy. So with PowerShell remoting, you'd be able to run this script from one computer or maybe a few computers, depending on how your segments work and if there's multiple domains that you might have to cross that might not have permissions to one another. You would just have this script running on one computer, and then in your file or in your database, you would also specify a computer name. So it would grab for each computer name, it would grab all the services, and then for each of those services, check the status, and then execute the proper command, and then check it afterwards and see what's going on. And you'd be running that from one computer instead of having to set it up on 100 or 1,000 or even 10 servers. Can get quite lengthy. And if you're adding a server, you don't have to remember to go on that server and install the script. All you have to do is go into your database or in your file and add that server in there. So that could be something that you guys want to do. I will be doing that for sure once we get into those advanced and intermediate projects. This is going to be one of those projects, just like the environment checker, that is going to evolve with the channel as we develop into those intermediate and advanced level projects. So if you guys have any questions or comments on the script, let me know down below in the comments and I will answer those as quickly as I can. If you guys have any other questions or would like to see a video on a topic, let me know down in the comments below. If I think that it'll benefit a lot of people, I will definitely make that video. If it's a little bit more specific, I'll just answer you directly. And that's pretty much it. So hit that like, hit that subscribe button, and make sure to click that notification bell to be notified when that next video comes out. And I will see you guys on the next video.